Good afternoon. Is everybody wide awake? So, I have been queued up to talk about cloud. How many people like the cloud? Really? Everybody should like the cloud. So again, this is a presentation I've done a couple times. I've tweaked it a little bit since my return from WPC last week. So, who's my Oakwood fan? There you are. I thought that might be you. So I know your guys are out there, so we were kind of pinging around. But actually, Oakwood had their name up on a slide in the WPC. You heard about that, right?
Oh, of course we did.
That's okay. Everybody was boom, boom. No, I'm just kidding. But anyway, so cloud and hosting. And so I've got an agenda here. Let's see if I can make this thing work today. So again, I'm Chris Gherardini. I'm actually the president and owner of Turnkey. I've met some of you, but again, welcome today. So what I want to do is, again, as I talk through this presentation, why cloud, cloud concepts, cloud considerations, again, how to pick a hosting strategy. I've got some licensing options. I've got a sample in here. Talk about managed services, what to look for. Talk about the Microsoft cloud strategy and just a little bit about the Turnkey cloud strategy. So, and this is already outdated a little bit. So in case you don't know who we are, we've been around a little over 20 years. We're a Gold ERP, Gold CRM partner. We're a Silver hosting partner. We have a communications practice as well as an Office 365. So we've been operating since '94 out of the St. Louis region. We're really an end-to-end service provider, everything from pre-sales, analysis, and so forth. So typically the people that don't know us, we're actually up to right at 40 people. We're in 7 different markets. Yeah. Is he number 40?
Introduce him.
Is it Mike Wright? Mike Wright in the right back of the room is one of my newest additions to the team. Mike is a deep CRM developer. We're very happy to have him on the team. So it's very, very fun over the past years as we've scaled up the group. But again, we're in 7 different markets, so we distribute solutions nationally, internationally. So again, I'll keep moving. So our cloud relationship, and again, as I kind of position what we're doing today, again, as a gold level distributor, CRM Online, Office 365. Again, I have a private hosting facility and a co-location in downtown St. Louis. I have my clients. Again, they're not all hosted with me, but we have clients hosted with other hosting providers. So again, a lot of different things going on there. And I have clients that are actually hosting providers as well. So we're involved with people hosting, building data centers, dealing with recurring billing. So it's really convoluted. We host, we work with hosting partners, we have clients that are hosted, and again, even in my world, my stuff is hosted. So as a business owner, I subscribe to the same strategy, and again, I'll talk a little bit about that. So, but let's talk about concepts. Again, a lot of times I'm doing this for educational purposes. So public cloud, what is public cloud? The misnomer is multi-tenant, non-dedicated resources. Resource pooling, self-service, elasticity that can shrink, can grow. Pay by use. Like Microsoft CRM Online, Office 365, Google Apps. Other attributes is hyperscale. Everybody's like, what's hyperscale? It means it can get very, 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 very big. So there's a lot of neat attributes around public cloud. Microsoft has public cloud. Amazon has public cloud. Google has public cloud, and there's a lot of other people that are building just massive data centers. So what's private? Dedicated resources typically. Again, privately owned. Me, I'm an owner. I have capital in a data center. It's in a commercial facility, but it is considered private. Organizations, big companies, they build data centers, whether the data center is in their premises or whether their data center is in a co-location facility. I've got clients that have capacity and equipment right next to my gear in a commercial facility. So private can also be company-owned as opposed to partner-owned. Hybrid. Hybrid's a big word. Again, the big messaging out of Microsoft just last week is it is a hybrid strategy, which means it is a blend of both private and public cloud. So what that means is it's not an all or nothing, and hybrid is really a term that allows you to mix strategies where, okay, I'm going to have something here, something here, something here. At the end of the day, I'm device driven, and nobody really cares where it's at as long as I have access to my applications and functionality. So hybrid is an important concept because a lot of people think this is an all or nothing world. On-premise. Okay, what is on-premise? Company-owned servers, licenses, maintained on the company's property, again, typically supported by the company. You can get managed services for gear that's in your property as well. Concepts of hosting, rented servers, licensing, managed services. Do you own anything? Okay, a lot of times people say, well, I want you to host this for me. What's that mean? Typically not your equipment. It may not even be your software. So there's a lot of varying degrees on what that definition actually means as well. And what is co-location? Co-location, I put my equipment in somebody else's facility. They don't own my servers, but again, it's no different than we're at 1111 Olive, commercial facility, and my gear's down there. But again, co-location, same thing. I put all my equipment down there. It's my licenses. The place where it's housed has nothing to do with it. And I apologize, SaaS is actually SaaS, so it is software as a service. And really what that just kind of articulates is I'm paying for, capital assets as a service, as opposed to I'm acquiring them and I'm doing depreciation and I'm doing maintenance and software assurance. So again, that is another one of those concepts. I love this slide. So I think my office building is right down here. And so, why do I do this? And, why cloud? There's a lot of reasons people consider this. And, statistically, again, what came out last week is going forward over the next 3 years, 47% of the IT spend will be on cloud-related services. 47%. That's huge. That's half of everything. So, again, as IT and you look at strategies, it's not like this is a fad. This is the way things are going. But why? And this is a great example. 2007, we had power outages, T-storms. We had ice storms. I mean, St. Louis is kind of a weird place. I got the Chesterfield Valley. So why is my stuff outside of the valley? Well, that's a perfect example where, from a security, physical security, but I think there's a lot of rationales as to why we do cloud. But let's talk a little bit more specifically. I use that word hyperscale. Again, how big will it get? We're trying to scale fast. There's a lot of organizations that need to deploy applications, and they can't react quick enough. I can't buy infrastructure fast enough. How long does it take to buy infrastructure, order it, receive it, deploy it, provision it? People don't have that time. And then all of a sudden, I need to be even bigger. So there's a real contention there. I like to think about physical security. There's nobody's going to back a truck up to my office and walk out the door with my servers. They can't get at it. It's like a vault, okay? So I love the physical security aspect of it. So do a lot of organizations. You go into the colo where I'm at, it's not just the building security. People have cages around their stuff. So they even have more and more security, and they have cameras. So it's very difficult to get access to these pieces of equipment for companies that are running these systems and hosting these systems or coloing this. Redundancy. Redundancy is a huge detail here. And you think about cost and what does it take to have the right amount of redundancy. If I run a data center in my office and I've got lots of people accessing it, there's a computable cost for downtime. Okay, well, how do I mitigate that? How much redundancy do I have? How about redundant power? Well, again, as you think about hosting and data centers, level 1, 2, 3, 4, what's level 3? Well, wow, they have dual substation feeds. There's not a lot of places in St. Louis where you can have dual substation feeds. You lose one, you're out of power. Great. So what do you have? You have to have a generator. Great. Generator runs out of gas. Now what do I do? Internet. How many internet pipes do you have? 1, 2, 3. So again, you get the idea of redundancy, and it's not just on those types of resources, but it's also on equipment. So we'll talk more about that. High availability is a term that not everybody needs high availability, but how do you get that? And what does that really mean? That means that, we run a 7x24 global operation, for example, can't have any downtime. We need 99.999% uptime. So again, more cost around that. But certainly those are advantages in a cloud situation. 7x24 IT Outsourced Services. I'm a great example. I'm a hoster. Do I have anybody that's working 7x24? I do not. So how do I get my 7x24 managed services? I have a relationship with my provider where they monitor my equipment 7x24. Fantastic. I need that. Nobody in my organization wants to run second shift, third shift, Saturdays, Sundays. But again, it's a strategy. Managed expense. Another one, predictability, okay? Sometimes it's not about cost, but a lot of times it is about cost, about predictability and cost. I like the zero hops to the internet. You think about performance, we think about scale. Again, latency is something that drives people crazy. Who likes a slow system? Anybody? I know you do. I'm just kidding. You love it. But the zero hops to the internet, it's all about performance. And again, in our world today, people want fast application access. Cost to maintain servers, licensing. Well, now why is rent attractive? I am always entitled to the latest and greatest. I don't own it. I just always know that I have the latest and greatest version, and that's a predictable cost. I love the last one, no IT hostage scenarios. In our GP user group, I go, how many IT people? And out of about 80, I had 3, and I asked them, could you please leave the room? Because there are these fiefdoms that go on, and you think about, in a hosted situation, who's holding the reins? CEO, CFO, They're the ones writing the checks to the hosting facility. Not IT doesn't run the show. And again, it's not a contention between IT, but you talk about the hostage situations, you talk about all of these types of protections for an organization, and that's another great example that I like to throw out there and pick on the IT guys. Considerations. Okay, how do we make determinations? Regulatory and compliance based on organizations. Different companies have a lot of different requirements they have to go through. There's people that are looking at everything. Where do you host? Tell me about the facility. Tell me about the security. Tell me about the compliance. Again, to assure that you meet certain levels. Health, financial services, those are great examples. We have defense contractors, a lot of scrutiny. We talked about hosting portals for one of our clients that face their customers. Well, who are their customers? They're all military installations. And so you think about even creating connections from a base into a data center and bidirectional, and wow, talk about scrutiny. Great example. Security requirements, physical security, premise security, application security. Again, this is another one that there are varying degrees of security that come with different hosting situations. Service level. Here we are again, 7 by 24. What do we expect people to do in the middle of the night? What's the firefight look like, and what is the team's ability to react to that? So these are all metrics that we have to factor into choices. Usage patterns for workloads. I had a guy that, okay, we've got a global, and he got, hey, the usage moves as the sun kind of rolls. Well, that's kind of interesting too, as you look at trying to, predict usage. I've got an application I'm doing now that has 10,000 consumers of a report. Okay, well, great. On a monthly basis, you think I could say, oh, it's going to be level. No, I'm going to have 3 days where I got 10,000 people all banging on this thing and it's going to fall off. So how do you size for 10,000 and then size back down? That's a great example of a usage pattern that impacts the plan. Integration with other enterprise functions. We're hub spoke. We've got, great, my Office 365's over there, and I got some local stuff, and I've got ERP here, and then I've got CRM online, and how do I get them all to integrate? And maybe I've got legacy applications. So again, as we get into the technical of connecting different systems as well as connecting a hosting facility down to a local office, again, we're getting into complexities around networking and, again, application integration requirements. Again, hosting facility features, power, internet, physical location, physical security, and then now costing comes in. On-premise, co-location, hosting, buy my licensing, have that hosted, rent licensing, rent equipment. Again, a lot of factors. Another favorite slide of mine. Oh, where do I put my data center? So we love the new Madrid in St. Louis, don't we? I've learned the other side of the river, St. Charles, different seismic zone. Everybody know that? Most people don't. You look at who's on the other side of the river. Verizon, MasterCard. There's a lot of big infrastructure that's on the other side of the river. We're in Chesterfield Valley. What about that one? That's the one where you shake a carpet. We're on silts. So, I wouldn't build a data center in Chesterfield Valley, frankly. So, but again, that's good to know. Okay, so back to how to pick a hosting strategy. Again, we're looking at company facility capability, state of servers, current need, replacements, etc. So as I talk to business owners, why should I consider this? Well, they're like, oh, I'm on Windows 2003 servers. Oh, you got a problem. And how many do you have? And do you have IT? And we start asking a lot of that stuff, and we're looking at licenses. What do you own? What are your versions? What about software assurance status? Back to in-house IT capability. Do I want to have a $90,000, $100,000 network engineer on staff that I hope I don't need? So again, there's a lot of cost factors here. Ongoing service requirements. Again, from an IT, application, users, cost is a factor as well. I talk about application configuration requirements. Availability. Again, am I high availability? Again, hey, if it's not available on the weekends for maintenance, no big deal. Where are my users? Okay, so, I see the map of the Microsoft regional data centers. They're global. Okay, so why are they doing that? Well, they're decentralizing this, but they're trying to put resources in different areas. I heard a gentleman talk last week who built a huge data center in Israel. And he was really funny. He goes, well, the people around us are our enemies, and so we really can't rely on a hosting facility that's outside of Israel. And I'm like, I get that. But different, interesting examples. Again, other integration requirements, compliance, and privacy. So there's a lot of little characteristics. Okay, let's talk about licensing options and software assurance. And so again, this is a matrix. Client access licenses. That's what traditionally everybody bought. You used to go buy a copy of Office, you got a CD, that's a client access license. There was no software assurance. Typically, you weren't buying that if you got a copy at the store, $400 or whatever. What would you do? Got to buy a new one. Okay, so $400 every version, for example. Some applications charge a software assurance, 18%. So, you can compute the cost of software over a 5-year initial acquisition, 18%. That's one way to do the math. Subscriber access licensing. So we talk about CALs, we talk about SALs. Okay, so subscriber access, it's rent, subscription licensing. You're not buying it, you don't own a thing. Office 365 is a great example of subscription. Instead of paying $400 every version, I'm going to pay $15 a month forever. You're like, okay, let's do the math on that. Oh, it actually comes out pretty good, but no software assurance, okay? And again, the software as a service, typically we're buying licensing and hosting and those types of things just as a service. I don't own anything. It's a pay per use, can shrink, can grow. So that's, again, as we think about software licensing, and everybody needs to understand it, again, I can buy client access licensing and have it hosted. So we do a complete hybrid. We have customers that will buy ERP, buy CRM, put it in the data center. Why? Well, you do the math on, I'm buying an ERP, it's $20,000, I'm going to pay 18% a year for 5 years, great. But if I rent it per month, it's cheaper to buy it and host it in a lot of scenarios. But then, why wouldn't you buy it? Don't have the cash. Well, it'll be my monthly. So there's always that, let's flatten it out and let's have a monthly payment instead of having a big capital acquisition and then a lower payment. So even that comes into play. So again, licensing categories, server software. I like to break it down. Windows Server, SharePoint's in there, remote desktop, Exchange, what's in there? Windows Server Data Center Edition. There's a lot of server-based applications. There's other things that I don't even have listed in here. What about virus software? What about backup software? What about, if you think about all the other things that go with the server, application software, ERP, CRM, SQL Server, and then we've got productivity software like Office. So again, a lot of different options between CALs, SALs, and the different types of software. So this is an example of a hosting example I did for a customer. And this is really how we break it down. We normally, from a pricing standpoint, try to present it a little bit simpler, but we layer it up. And so, Windows Server 2012, SALs. And actually, we do this a little different today. We do a data center edition, and we get some different types of licensing efficiencies within the server software itself. But then we actually have to license out remote desktop users. So if these people are going to remote into the data center and run on a platform, we do those, and these are all named user licenses. So the topic about concurrent licensing versus named user licensing, very different as well. Database licensing. Again, okay, we're calling out 25 subscribers. The option is, we've got so many, maybe we should get processor licensing. So there's a couple different flavors of database licensing too. And then I use the example where we've got our ERP users. We've got 10 users for financial supply chain. And then we throw in our 15 light users where these people are peripheral doing, BI and requisitioning and Excel reports and workflow. And then we throw in our Office licensing. We've got 25 Office 2013 and Microsoft. If you've got 25 remote desktop users, you better have 25 Office users. So there's some associations there. A little bit lower down, now we've got the Dell Hyper-V cluster, 3 VMs. Those are virtual servers, an Active Directory, a SQL box, an application server. And then we get into the hosting facility, sonic wall protection, redundant power, HVAC, internet backup, server administration, security. All this breaks down to, 25 users at $53.25 per month or $213 per user per month. You're thinking, $213 per user per month for all that stuff. Good deal? Bad deal? Well, you're like $60,000 a year. So take it out 2 years, take it out 5 years. I think 5 years, you're like, okay, well, no, more like $300,000. The math is an interesting example. I've got a client today, I'm hosting their ERP. They're paying me $10,000 a month to host it. 120, we did a 10-year ROI, they're like, $1.2 million. IT's thinking, I can buy a lot of equipment for $1 million too. I can do it cheaper. Well, again, soft cost, hard cost. So as you're doing your exercises, don't forget the soft cost, hard cost. And again, now, if I bring it into my building, where are those 10,000 users? They're global. Okay, so scalability. Do I have the generators? Do I have triple internet pipes? I've got triple. Do I have 2 substation feeds? No. Do I have 2 megawatt diesel generators? All of a sudden you start saying to build your facility to equate, this is feeling pretty cheap. I did an exercise to, if I wanted to build out more data center space, and I thought, hey, I'd like a megawatt of power. I go, it's about $8 million a megawatt. I'm like, okay, maybe I'll just keep renting space from my current provider, but it's a great economic exercise and up front. And so again, so $5,000 a month, people can walk into the solution, as opposed to they're spending $300,000 up front, buying all the infrastructure and the capital and so forth. So hopefully that's a helpful example. Managed services. What does that mean? How many people use managed services in the organization? Nobody. What is it? People are doing things for you. Okay, I use managed services. The guys that are watching my data center inside their facility, and they're monitoring two things. They're monitoring the network and the SAN. That's it? Well, so again, in my big cluster, and it's called a cluster for other reasons, but there are many servers. There's hundreds of VMs, and these are virtual servers. But within this cluster, there's actually 5 networks. So from an engineering standpoint, there's 5 different, synchronous, asynchronous paths of communication going on. There's communication between servers and storage. There's communication between virtual servers. If a server fails, it's so fast, they don't even know it. It just moves over to a different server. So there's a lot of moving pieces. So I have these guys 7 by 24. I think they charge me $1,500 a month on top of my hosting fee to monitor the 5 networks that are running as well as the storage. That's all they're looking at. Okay, now, we'll drop down another level. I got hundreds of VMs. They'd love to charge me per virtual server to now monitor the virtual servers. Now I've got a SQL server, maybe an Exchange server, so there's different levels of managed services. Now, why is this important? Okay, so we talked about system maintenance. I don't have to drive down there and reboot a machine. They'll take care of that. Updates, service packs, there is constant work that has to be done on servers. I said I have hundreds of them. Okay, who does all those updates? We don't just have Microsoft Windows Update enabled because then we start getting reboots. We can't have reboots because people don't like that. System administration. We're setting up users. We're removing users. DNS is domain name services. Application software maintenance. Now we're down to the next level. Who's updating GP? Who's updating CRM? Who's updating Exchange? Application software support. Who's my help desk? So why is this important? Because, as I talk to a lot of business owners and companies, what is your competency? What does your business do? Okay? And so you're zeroing in on, I'm an ERP software provider. I'm not going to run a 7 by 24 technical network infrastructure practice. So I'm going to outsource things that aren't part of my core competency. But as we look at strategies moving forward, managed services is a way to decentralize and outsource key functions of the business, where I'm going to get a specialist, and I'm going to make him accountable and responsible 7 by 24, and yes, I'm going to pay for that, but I've alleviated that cost internally and I've moved it out. And again, even in my world, we may be hosting GP. My managed services for GP would be, I'm doing maintenance on your application environment. Traditionally, we step back. If it's installed in your office, you're doing that. Or you may call me when you have a problem. But managed, I'm proactive. I'm maintaining it so it doesn't get to the point where it has a failure. Okay, whether I'm using sensors to tell me that something's going wrong and I get in there ahead of time and I deal with it. But again, it's a strategy. So managed services, important topic. Again, even me as a partner, I use managed services. So how many people host something today? Oh, you guys do. I know that. Anybody else? Nothing? No cloud-based activities today at all? Anybody using Office 365? No? No? Opportunity here. You see that? Site. So let's keep going. So let's talk about the Microsoft Cloud strategy. And again, you heard me say, so adoption. Adoption's an interesting topic as you talk about Office 365. They threw statistics out there. 57% of the corporate, like the Fortune 500, have adopted Office 365. 57%. That's huge. And in this room, what 2%? Maybe we're an Office 365 user ourselves. But the suite includes Office, Exchange, SharePoint, Power BI, Link. I had a guy yesterday, a customer I'm talking to, says, well, I need to do something where I've got an old 2003 Exchange server. I'm not going to put a new Exchange solution on site. We're going to move that one up. Hybrid. Let's go to Office 365. And he wants a SharePoint site. Same thing. I'm not going to offer to build him a local SharePoint site. This is a strategy. Great. I'm dealing with his ERP. We'll probably host that in our data center, but we'll get him on an Office 365. But as part of Microsoft's strategy, Office 365 is here to stay. And if you do your math on cost of acquiring, CAL licensing for Office versus doing subscription, I had a customer with 600 employees. They did the math. It's cheaper to do this. It's a lot cheaper. $40,000, $50,000 a year. And again, it's perpetual, which means you're paying per month and you're never updating it, upgrading it again. And guess what? It's in somebody else's cloud, public cloud, which means what? You get very, very large. So Microsoft Azure. How many people have heard of Azure? I know you guys love it to death. But Azure is an interesting one as well. And even as a partner, and I have a private data center, it's like, well, would I use Azure? Would I use my stuff? What is Azure? It's it's hyperscale, public cloud. But more than that, You know, I need 20 servers and I need them yesterday. I can go into Azure and click, 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 and in 5 minutes, I can have 20 servers all configured and all that networking stuff's all done. But really, 5 minutes. But if I ask somebody internally, hey, look, you need to go buy equipment, you need to get all this ready, when can I have it? And they're going to be like, how's end of September? No. So, but whether that's primary, I'm using it as a primary location, but this is another statistic that 50% of that Fortune 500 have already begun in engaging in Azure. And Oakwood knows that. You guys are hugely out there supporting that. So why? What is it? You know, from a failure, from a redundancy, from a scale standpoint, it gets big. You know, I told you, okay, I may have 2,200 virtual servers in my hosting facility. Microsoft's creating pipes down to data centers. I could set up my stuff, so if I have a failure in my data center, where's my backup? Ooh, do I need to build a second stack of $1 million worth of gear? Or do I rely on Azure where if something failed in mine, oh wow, it failed over to Azure. Customer didn't even know. Why? So fast. Connections between my data center and Microsoft's data center, they've been building connections into data centers. But part of the big attraction here is hyperscale. It can grow hugely, click, click, click. Sure, you're paying per month. This stuff's not cheap. But backup, redundancy, failure, and a lot of people are building their infrastructure in Azure. Why? You know, there's a cost to it, but at the same time, it's outside of the organization. You know, we've got the redundancy. Their data centers are massive. So anyway, this is a topic that if you haven't seen much of this and you think about it, even me as a strategy, we're going to be looking at this as failover, where we can fail over our data center to an Azure cloud. Customer doesn't notice anything. I mean, it's transparent, it's backup, but again, it saves me a capital investment. So again, big deal. Every piece of Microsoft software is being developed for the cloud. That is a true statement. Everything that they distribute and deliver is going to have a cloud-based version of it. ERP, CRM, productivity tools, on and on and on. So again, that is a strategy that is just moving. You know, the messaging, mobile first, cloud first. Every executive that got up in front of us in a mobile first, cloud first world. You have a question, Mike?
Just let you know, 4 minutes.
I have 4 minutes. You're trying to keep me on time? How many more slides do I have? Not that many. So anyway, mobile first, cloud first, which again, this is all about devices and applications. And where are they? I don't care. The consumer world doesn't care where my app is. I want my apps, and again, it's going to be an app world, and we don't care where they're at. And I could have 15 different apps on my device, and I do have a Windows 8 device, so I've dumped my iPhone, but I really don't care where it's at. And if it's Office 365 and ERP or CRM, they could all be in different places. But to me as a consumer, it's transparent. And again, the shift, the customer experience, the consumer experience. We don't really care about what's going on behind the scenes. We want high availability. We want the performance. So Microsoft Public Cloud built on, you know, Windows Server, Hyper-V System Center. As I looked at what they showed me, these 15 regional data centers, they zoomed in. Each data center has 16 buildings. Each building is the size of a football field, and each building has 600,000 servers in it. I was like, wow. And they're massive. And they're massive. And 2 out of every 3 boxes out here these days has Windows on it, Windows Server on it. But that is just, that's what they call hyperscale. You know, okay, I don't need 600,000 servers, but if you think about large organizations that need high availability and predictability, it's a great strategy. Eliminate IT from the emphasis. Focus on business processes, not technical details. Time. Time is the factor here. Time to procure, time to provision, cost to maintain. It all goes away in an Azure type strategy. So Microsoft strategy is pretty solid, and again, based on adoption, you'll see that it's going there. You know, just a couple other things about Azure. It's virtual machines, provisions Windows and Linux. So again, from an application standpoint, Windows client apps in the cloud using remote desktop services, high availability, infinitely scalable. That's huge. Okay, I am not infinitely scalable. You know, I may run into some big ERP deals that don't belong in my data center. So we'll just deal with that. Again, Express Route is one of these things. These are dedicated private network fiber connections to Azure. That means that my data center downtown might already have an Express Route. So again, if you think about failover and instantaneous, we get rid of latency because of the communications infrastructure going on here. Traffic Manager, again, another one of these things. And this is my last one, and I'm going to skip this one, but we talk about cloud services, and again, as I kind of rebrand what we're doing these days, there's a lot of stuff that falls under our topic of cloud services. ERP Online, we represent GP and AX. CRM Online, again, you can get that in Microsoft's public cloud, you can get that in Turnkey's private cloud. Why would you choose one over the other? We went through a lot of those questions. There's a lot of decisions there. Azure, infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, part of our offer. Office 365, again, migrations. We're moving people from on-premise to a Microsoft Office 365 world. Power BI, everybody heard of that one yet? That is a hot topic. It is a hot topic, but as you get into more, why are we collecting all the data? Deep business analysis, business intelligence is a big deal. Exchange, same thing. I don't dabble in Exchange, but again, we can help people migrate everything up to the Microsoft 365 Exchange. Again, we're in the public cloud. SharePoint, same thing. Public cloud, Office 365. We have a Link offering, so again, we can do Link public cloud with Microsoft, Link private cloud, single tenant on-site. So again, a lot going on in what we call our cloud services offering. Again, it's a lot of information, but part of this is it's awareness. It's, there's a lot of traditional old school business owners that are like, well, I don't trust the cloud. And so, we kind of laugh about that. But based on adoption rates, the thing to be recognized is that it is a hybrid option that people are considering. It's not an all or nothing. And again, as we talk about Office 365, you've got to look at the strategy. You've got to look at the math. You've got to look at the economics on it. And you'll find that most of this stuff will prove out with a return on investment. A lot of soft costs, a lot of hidden costs that people don't always compute. If you factor all that in, the numbers actually do make sense. So that's it. I have no minutes left. So if there's any questions, we'll just have to save them. So, you have a question, Mike?
Yes. What award did we win recently?
What award did we win? We were recently recognized as a 2014 President's Club member for Microsoft. So it's good. I think out of the 16,000 partners, we're in the top 220. So it's good stuff. Yeah, it takes a lot to get there. It's not just customer satisfaction, revenue, team, academics. There's a lot that gets us to that level. So yeah, we're pretty proud that we did that. So, okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.